Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate. He's on the East Coast. Recording separately this morning, a little scheduling conflict, but we are bringing you both of our player props bets here in this episode. Also have another episode up with our best bets, looking at some sides and totals in that one. So make sure to subscribe to that channel. Don't miss any of the action we're bringing you all season long. Also want you to head to the description of this video and check out the link to the email newsletter that we started churning out every Friday for you guys, keeping you up to date on all the news across the sports betting world. And Nate and I even have a bonus parlay pick that we're bringing you every Friday, a little same game parlay. And we are 2-0 in those in the first two newsletters that come out. Over 2.5 units made now. So looking to keep that streak going with you guys here for today. But let's go ahead and jump right into Nate's first play of prop for tonight.
Jalen Green opens at 21.5 points, and I know it's juiced up at some sites, but that's pretty low given this matchup against Dallas, which has given up 122 points, at least 122 in 6 straight games. Worst rim defense in the league by far since the All-Star break, since they lost all their bigs. They might get PJ Washington back in this game, which probably affects more guys like Eason and Jabari and Şengün, unless Jalen Green, who's going to be able to operate against an aging Klay Thompson a lot and overworked Najee Marshall. It's just not the same Dallas team he's had to deal with in recent seasons when they were very, very good defensively and held him to very bad shooting splits, 33% from deep, 44 overall. He still averaged 22.5. He still had 21 plus in all 4 of his last meetings with Dallas. So for this to open at 21.5, when he comes in on a pretty good heater at home post All-Star break, 116 offensive rating, hitting 40% of his threes on 9 attempts per game. And Dallas is allowing 40% from 3 in March. And Dallas is allowing the second most paint points in March. And the Rockets do have Fred VanVleet back, which you'd think maybe that lowers Jalen's usage, but it also helps set him up with quality looks. He gets everyone organized. Fred still getting his sea legs under him, but immediately we just seen Jalen welcome him back and continue the hot streak he's on, where he's been 20 plus in every one of these last 7 home games, I believe, and is just playing very well. And then with Amen Thompson out, like, he just becomes more of the identity of this Rockets team. They play more in the half court, and he is their half court solvent. It's just like, all right, we need somebody to create a shot, like step back threes, go into the rim. It's all on Jalen. And so that's why I like him here against Dallas.
First look I'm going with is from that Cleveland-Memphis game. Got to go with Darius Garland on the assists here. I really prefer the assist to anything with the points for him. He's been scoring a good amount with Donnie, without Donnie, I should say, as we know Donovan Mitchell not available in this Cleveland game. But I do love the dimes over the points for Donnie. For Darius, rather. 8.3 assists per game without Donnie. Looked at 20 potential assists versus Brooklyn in this last game. Just only ended up with 8 assists because Cleveland shot 44% from the field and 23% from 3. Not banking on that happening again. We're going to see a pretty similar defense here from Memphis as what we saw from Brooklyn, right? Which is a team that pressures the ball handler, which will be Darius, and allows a lot off the spot up, right? So guys that are coming to catch and shoot, those are the guys for the points a little bit more than Darius in this particular matchup. If you look at the pace too, this game is going to stay high, right? It was about 100 pace last game, and there was no Donovan Mitchell in the last matchup between these two teams either. So we have a very similar context that we're coming back to here. Looked really good in that game without Donnie. We had a 252 total in that one. And we're talking about a team with the fastest pace in Memphis and the 10th fastest pace on the season in Cleveland. So I expect that to continue and the points to be there, which means the assists will be there for Darius, who, like I said, 8 assists per game without Donnie. The teams that he's played that were in the bottom half of the league limiting assists, which is what Memphis is, went over in all 3, right? The unders were against some pretty good assist defenses like the Detroit Pistons. So pretty okay with a small sample size without Donovan on the court. But even if you look at him on the season as a whole, without Donnie Mitchell on the floor, Darius Garland gets up to about 9.8 assists per 36 minutes, playing about like 34 or 35 minutes without Donnie. So we should expect a full load here from Darius Garland, and he should be good for at least 8, probably a little sprinkle on double-digit assists for him as well.
Franz Wagner under. We have not taken this in a long time, if at all this season, but got to recognize the situation and the matchup and Paolo's rising usage, which is diminished with Franz. So under 29.5 points and assists is where I would go here against the Minnesota Timberwolves with Orlando on a back-to-back, coming off a big blowout of the Pelicans where Franz had a big line. And I think that's why this is a tiny bit inflated here. His previous 3, he went way under. He's under an 8 of his last 10 since the All-Star break even went under against Toronto when he had 28 points and just 1 assist. So the ball not in his hands as much. Paolo, everything is running through Paolo. The usage is down to 25% in the last 4 for Franz, averaging just under 20 points a game. And the shooting slump from deep has returned with the ball in his hands left 18% from 3, which is big trouble against Minnesota. It's a big reason why, if you can't score on the perimeter, he's only had a 102 offensive rating in his last 4 against the Wolves, only scored 13.5 a game despite playing 34 minutes. And now the Wolves with a rest advantage here, coming off another stellar defensive performance, just held freaking Denver to 95 points. They are the number 4 defense in March. They are playing at a bottom 10 pace. Orlando will obviously match that pace and lower the amount of possessions in this game if it even remains close. The Wolves have allowed paint points since the All-Star break, but they just got Rudy Gobert back. And that's probably a big factor in why they were able to shut down Denver, the hottest offense in the league, if not, right there with Cleveland, I guess. That it's just unbelievable to hold them under 100. And now you get Orlando, which was just a terrible offense before that Pelicans game. And the Pellies couldn't stop a nosebleed with no center. Let's not forget, they had to start Matkovic and play Zion huge minutes. And they just let Franz and Paolo walk right to the rim. It's just going to be a completely different situation now against the Wolves, who don't give up anything easy and are a particularly tough matchup for Franz if he's not hitting from the perimeter, because he tries to get everything going to the rim to unlock his game.
Last pick for me on the day is going to be in that Miami-Boston game. Still waiting on all the Boston guys and if they're going to play or not, but Tyler Hero is going to play, and I like an under on his dimes here. Make sure you get this at 6.5. I do not like it at 5.5, but I love it at 6.5. I have him slated for about 4.5 assists that you should have him projected for in about 34 to 36 minutes tonight. The under 5.5 is playable if you get plus money. I will say that. The 6.5 is great down to minus 140 on the odds. The under on 5.5 is good if you get at least about plus 115, plus 120 on the odds there. But this is the one of the top assist defenses in the league. They're third best limiting assists. We always know when we're going up against the Celtics, we take the ball handler, which is Tyler Hero, the primary ball handler, to go under on the dimes, maybe over on the points, because Boston's one of those defenses that does not double team, right? So they're going to let guys go one-on-one. That leads to, as good as defenders are for the Celtics one-on-one, still going to lead to a few more points with NBA quality players going up against them. They're going to get theirs if you don't help at all. And that's the case. But what you're not going to give up as the Celtics is spot up shooting. And that's the reason that I love this here for the under for Tyler. And if you look back at Tyler's game log this season and you look at the games where he's played without Jimmy Butler, but he's played with Bam Adebayo, and that doesn't even include, the fact that he's playing with a guy like Davion Mitchell, taking assists from him, a guy like even Andrew Wiggins, who has a good amount of touches in these games, and obviously Bam. There's just a lot more usage to go around. And we've seen Tyler Hero dip down on his average assists, only averaging 4 a game, by the way, against the Celtics on 8 potentials. So if he even gets 10 potential assists in this game, I still don't like him to get 7. If he got 11 or 12 potential assists, I'd still like an under in this game. And that's about what we should expect, is about 10, 11 potential assists. That's the ceiling for Tyler Hero in this matchup. It's been the ceiling for him. He's had a couple games with 14 over the past couple seasons, but even in those games, those don't turn into actual assists just because he's got the potentials, because the Celtics don't give up very many assists because they're guarding the spot up shooter. So even he gets a spot up, he finds an open shooter, and that turns into a potential assist for Hero. Not as likely that it's going to get made against one of the best 3-point defenses, a defense that's hugging their defenders out on the 3-point line. So like the Boston defense to really limit the assists for Hero, but I wouldn't be touching an under on the points. That's where I think he'll excel a bit more. And that is all the time we have for you here on Friday. Definitely make sure to check out the description of the video so you don't miss that email newsletter with the bonus parlay pick that we have in there for you guys. And we will be back on Monday. So until we see you next, happy betting.